South Asian economies and India's closest neighbours, Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Bangladesh, are going through serious financial crisis. After Pakistan and Sri Lanka, Bangladesh recently contacted the International Monetary Fund as a preventive measure due to declining foreign exchange reserves and a decline in output and exports. While the situation is not as bad in Bangladesh, conditions in Pakistan and Sri Lanka are frightening. As part of its expansionist program, China has offered these economies large loans with comparatively softer terms. In the past, these crisis-ridden countries have been pushed to seek loans from China. According to Observer Research Foundation, China is the largest single creditor in the world and has lent over $1.5 trillion by 2021. Let's first consider Sri Lanka, India's tiny island neighbor to the south. It owes China almost $7 billion, or about 20% of its overall external obligations. The debt load on Sri Lanka rose over time, and China offered the nation with restructuring, haircuts, etc. on a regular basis to keep its hold over Sri Lanka going. However, differences between Sri Lanka and China have grown in recent months, as Sri Lanka requested China for a loan restructuring to meet some of IMF's key conditions. But China has rejected Sri Lanka's proposals to restructure the $4 billion loan it gave to Sri Lanka earlier. As a result, Sri Lanka missed the IMF deadlines while waiting for China to complete restructuring requests. Sri Lanka might have missed the IMF boat altogether had India and Japan not intervened and made a restructuring commitment. Most recently, Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe declared that Sri Lanka is no longer a bankrupt nation as the IMF has approved a $3 billion bailout. Sri Lanka will receive the first tranche of $330 million within 2 days. The Sri Lankan president further said that his country's economic condition is improving and the country will gradually roll back import restrictions. Future tranche releases will be subject to review every 6 months. The IMF program will give Sri Lanka access to $7 billion in overall funding. Although gradually, but Sri Lanka's situation seems to be improving. However, Pakistan's condition is the worst amongst the three. Ahead of Ramadan, the Muslim holy month, Pakistan is facing the worst inflation in 5 decades. Fuel and commodity prices are at never-before-seen levels, while its currency continues to devalue. China has made a $62 billion investment in Pakistan so far, and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor has ensured that Pakistan's grave is dug the deepest. 30% of its overall external loans, or about $30 billion, are owed to China. Similar to Sri Lanka, China took its time restructuring the loans when Pakistan asked the IMF for a $1.1 billion bailout package via a number of measures, including business loans, currency swaps, and loan rollovers. And now Pakistan is dealing with new but obvious problem of compounding debt. The political unrest has only made the situation worse for Pakistan. Among the three, Bangladesh is currently the safest, owing China only 7% of its total external debt, or about $5 billion. Bangladesh has asked the IMF for a stabilization package costing $4.7 billion as a precautionary action due to declining foreign exchange reserves, energy difficulties, and declining domestic production and exports. Yet, given that China is making significant investments in Bangladesh infrastructure, energy sector, railways, etc., Bangladesh must exercise caution when dealing with China. In order to balance out the West and India, China is expected to retain strong ties with these South Asian nations.